All right, welcome back to KPRC 2 News at 2:30 this morning. The team is here with you throughout the night. We're going to have team coverage across the coast, across the Houston area, as Hurricane Beryl, now a Category 1 storm, comes ashore. We've been seeing the effects. We're here to guide you through it through the night into the morning when we really see the effects here in the Houston area. Sophia, Amy, and Justin with you this morning. Hope you guys are at home, relaxing, not going anywhere.
Right, yeah, because we know a lot of across the Houston area, they're already seeing the rain, but it should pick up.
The wind will pick up, the rain will pick up, the severe weather threat will start to pick up as well. We've been talking throughout the night with Gage, Mario Diaz, who are down at the coast right now. You saw how fast those conditions fell apart where Gage was down towards Surfside, right? They had to get inside because it was just not safe anymore. So I think that's a good indication of you want to put sort of a 1 to 2 hour lag window for what we'll likely start to see as we move further inland, right? So the storm itself, or at least the outer eye walls, are starting to approach the coastline, right? So that's where we're really going to start seeing some of the heaviest rain. Look down towards Lake Jackson and notice that we already have a flash flood warning that is in effect. I expect to see many more of these today. And not only that, but as I said, we're going to start to see the wind pick up. The roads are very slick. I can tell you from driving in this morning, 59 was very, very slippery. So these are only going to get worse. Okay, so let's set the stage. If you're joining us now, we appreciate that. Stay put at home. Cannot stress that enough. This is going to be a fast moving storm. There's the center of it. You can see it right there. Let's jump in a little tight around that just so you get a better sense of what we're seeing right around the center of the eye. Okay, so there's our flash flood warning. You can see it over there towards Sweeney, over to Lake Jackson, but let me jump offshore right now, and this is what we were just talking about. So the center of the eye. Now, two things with this. It is still a Category 1 hurricane, so it has strengthened overnight. However, notice that the eye isn't necessarily very coast-centric, right? So it does look like somebody just took a cookie cutter and just carved out the center of it. That's actually going to benefit us just a bit, meaning that this is probably starting to interact with some of these outer barrier islands here towards Matagorda Bay, and so it's chewing up the center of that, making a little more of a bit of a waggle or a wobble, if you want to think of it that way. That said, there are still probably wind gusts, as you saw saw Oscar and Gage just a bit ago talking. They were clocking nearly 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So if we kind of back this out, and let's go back out here just a second, and I'm going to slide up and I want to put this on a stop here just so you get a sense of what we're seeing. And here is what we have. So let me move that out of the way. This is our severe thunderstorm warning, and that in particular is going to be anywhere from right around, let's see what we've got with that there. That is to Brazoria County. That's until 4:45, right? So that includes areas around Lake Jackson, Freeport, over to Bay City. So it's parts of Brazoria and in parts of Matagorda County. That's included there too, till 4:45 in the morning. Okay, so that's probably about the next 2 hours is what we're looking at right now. Now, notice that we're starting to pick up over towards south of El Campo and into parts just north of Palacios. We're getting some flood warnings that are starting to pop up as well. I expect to see more of those, especially in Carolina. We're just talking about the fact that once all this heavy rain starts to slide off to the north here, the Trinity River likely will see anything that's up on the north side there near Dallas over towards Lufkin and Tyler. On the northern end of the Trinity is all going to head on back down to the coast. So we're not necessarily out of the woods just yet. So let me bounce around to a couple of different neighborhoods and I'll get you a sense of what we're seeing. Notice I do have the lightning turned on, and right now we're only picking up about 1 or 2 strikes on this band right here. So if we jump a little tighter on that, just to get a better sense of what we're seeing with that band, this is where we're seeing some of the heaviest, probably not only heavy rain, but right around Palacios is where we're seeing probably some of the strongest winds as well. Because again, the eye wall right about here, just across Matagorda Bay. And so as that slicing around Palacios and kind of swirling around, remember this is all going counterclockwise here. That's one of the things we're going to be watching, is not only for some of these bands moving through, but a potential for some of these that also could see a little bit of spin and rotation to it. Two other things to watch over towards Galveston. Let me put this back into motion here just so you get a sense of the timing on this and what we're seeing. You see how this band is starting to slide northward up on the western end of the island. Anthony made this point earlier this morning. I thought it was a great point. So if you missed it, I'm going to make it again. Remember, over towards the seawall is over on the east end of the island, towards the Pleasure Pier, where our own Conflenti is, which we will get to here a little later this morning. But if you get over to the west end of the island there, so if we slide in a little tighter on here towards Jamaica Beach and over around Surfside, notice that there's no seawall. And so it is just at the brunt of everything that's coming on shore right now. And this is where we're going to start to see some problems in terms of not only the wind, but probably the storm surge that is going to be picking up. I've seen it between about 1 to 2 feet now. It is going to rise anywhere from around possibly 4 to 6 feet. Would not be shocked to see it even closer to 6 to 7 feet. So again, if you're just joining us, it's 2:35. It's meteorologist Justin Stapleton. We're going to stay on the air right here at KPRC2 and at KPRC2 Plus throughout the morning just to get you a sense of what we're seeing. So I'm going to bounce around to a couple of other areas just to show you what we're seeing all across the area. So we've got Sugar Land over to Needville over towards Wharton. If we put a stop on this here, let's just look over our south side, also looking at a potential for some heavy rain as well. So that's anywhere from right outside of Pearland as you get towards there and Alvin. Same thing as you go anywhere there's Mont Bellevue, and then of course as you go right here from Sugar Land down to Pearland over to Manville. So that's 288 across parts of Highway 6. Sliding on over, there's Brookside Village to Pearland. There's League City, this bullseye that you see, and you probably see this a lot this morning as well. That's the actual radar site over for the National Weather Service office in League City and Dickinson. And then right now we've still got plenty of heavy rain here from Manville over towards Hillcrest as well. A lot going on over the next couple of hours. So let me show you this real quick, and then I'm going to jump over to Caroline Brown. She's got a lot more on some of the winds that we're seeing with the storm, which is going to be one of the other threats today. So 2 o'clock advisory, max winds at 80 miles an hour. So it's still a Category 1 hurricane. Do expect it to make landfall probably somewhere near Sargent within the next hour to 90 minutes. And then here's part of the issue. By 8 a.m., that's moving northward up across parts of I-10. So we're talking about Katy, Fulshire, Brookshire, areas across western Harris County in towards Fort Bend County. This may still be a Category 1 hurricane as it makes landfall. Notice it'll start to dissipate very quickly and slide up towards Tyler and Shreveport by later on this afternoon and this evening. And once it's gone, that should be the end of it. But cannot stress enough, the next 4 to 6 hours are going to be very dangerous in many locations. If you do not have to get out, please do not. We're going to talk more about current winds, wind gusts that are starting to pick up as well in many spots, and of course that storm surge. But right now, let me get over to meteorologist Caroline Brown, who's got more deep diving on what we're seeing out there. Caroline?
Justin, that's right. In fact, we saw a wind gust at Matagorda Bay of 75 miles per hour. That is considered hurricane force winds. So I want to take a closer look at those current winds coming down, especially closer to Matagorda Bay, the Palacios area. So let's show you what we're tracking. If we switch this over to velocity, this is going to give us an estimation of how strong these winds are. So right now around Sweeney, we're seeing winds about 51 miles per hour, closer towards areas down around Bay City, 67 miles per hour. Earlier, I was able to find a gust potentially up to 82 miles per hour. And it's not just the winds, it's going to be the rain. These winds are bringing with it those raindrops sideways. So if we switch this over, this is just going to be in the last 3 hours for how much rainfall we've seen, anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches of rain. We'll put a few more locations on the map here. The closer you get to the coast, we've already picked up over 3.5 inches of rainfall. This means areas like Surfside, over towards Freeport, Lake Jackson, Angleton. It is going to be incredibly easy for us to get up to 8 inches of rain today. And remember, that's rainfall. And then we're going to see storm surge on top of it. As these bands are pushing on shore, they're pushing the water on shore with them. When we looked at Surfside from Hurricane Nicholas in 2021, Nicholas had winds of 90 miles per hour. We saw 4 to 5 feet of storm surge. So a nice gauge. You can't compare 1 to 1, but certainly something we're continuing to monitor. So that storm surge doesn't even count the additional rainfall. In fact, we do have a flood watch currently in place for all of southeast Texas. This is through Tuesday morning, likely along a lot of those rivers. We can expect this to be extended, but that's because 5 to 10 inches of rain, that's going to be widespread. Isolated locations, especially closer towards the coast, up to 13 inches of rain. So just in the last 24 hours, Bay City, almost 4 inches of rainfall. And Justin, we have a lot more rain coming down really over the next 12 hours here.
Yeah, we certainly do. So we're not out of the woods just yet. Now, aside from the rain threat, there's also the wind threat as well. These are the current wind speeds. If you're watching us across the Katy area, Brenham out towards downtown, you're saying, well, it's not too bad. It's a little breezy, but we're at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Look down towards Palacios. That's the current wind speed. That's sustained winds, by the way. 28 in Bay City, 26 in Lake Jackson. All of the water starting to get pushed across parts of the bay down to Galveston at 30 and Palacios around 43. And the wind gusts even higher than that. Wind gusts starting to approach 30 miles an hour across downtown, 45 in Galveston, 57 in Lake Jackson, and 71 right there in Palacios. You can see where the center of the storm is coming on shore, and that's where a lot of our crews have been getting blasted for the last couple of hours. Let me send it back over to Sophia and Amy. Guys, I know we've got people spread all over that we're going to take care and show you eyes and ears on the ground of what's happening throughout the rest of the night here.
We do, Justin. We have our crews. We have about 4, 5, 6 crews out there. They'll be giving us a live look at what the area, is doing where they are along the coast. So we're going to head over now to Bill Spencer. He is in the city of Jamaica Beach, where they are just getting hammered there with the winds and those bands of rain that are pushing through. Bill, talk about what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, Sophia, well, I can tell you that we are right in the middle of a very powerful winds right now. I mean, the wind is stinging. It's like 1,000 needles hitting you. You can't look into the sideways rain because it's too painful for me to do that. But just take a look at the palm trees around here. I want you to look at the flagpole up here. Look at the flag. Pan up here, Brett. Take a look at that flag. We are right in front of Venato's Cantina and Buck's Bar. And this is a business that, like most of the businesses in town, had to close down early today. But the good news is they still have power in this whole area. The lights have been flickering on and off a little bit just in the last 10 minutes, but right now they still have power. Joining me now live is the Jamaica Beach Police Chief, and this is Chief Raymond Gervais. Chief, you've been out with your officers. You got 4 cars on the road right now. What are you guys doing, basically?
We're just trying to make sure we don't have anybody out here on the roads driving in these terrible conditions. It's gotten real intense over the last couple of hours, and we're just making sure people are not out here driving around.
I got to tell you, Jamaica Beach is a community of about 1,080 people. At least a couple hundred of them have already left. They heeded the voluntary evacuation order. Chief, when did most of the people when did most of the residents here start taking off?
We probably had most of them leaving earlier this afternoon. They listened to our evacuation. We asked them to please, be smart and leave, and they listened, and we really appreciated that.
Have you had any reports of people in trouble, anybody injured or severe damage to any of the homes or businesses here?
So far, sir, we've been very, very fortunate. Nothing has been reported to us. Again, we've been very lucky at this time.
Your message to the people who are watching right now, I would assume it is stay the heck off the road, right?
You said it. Stay the heck off the roads, folks. You don't need to be out here. It's dangerous. The winds are picking up. It's getting super intense out here. Stay home.
Chief, we really appreciate your dedication. You going to be out here all night?
All night, sir. Yes, sir.
Into the morning?
Into the morning.
Okay, God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. I want to tell you all, driving in here on Farm to Market Road 3005, I got to tell you, the conditions horrendous. It was almost undrivable. You can tell by the sideways wind and the rains that when you're driving, the road disappears. You can't see anything. So I haven't seen anybody out on the roadway other than the chief and his men, and that's about it, and that's the way it should be. So if you're thinking, even considering going out in your car tonight in this area, Jamaica Beach, forget about it. It's crazy. Stay hunkered down. You're still here. Stay hunkered down because the wind just keeps picking up, the wind and the rain. It just keeps getting stronger and stronger over the last 45 minutes. The change, the difference, the strength of the storm has really kicked up, and it's only going to get worse. Reporting live in Jamaica Beach, Bill Spencer, KPRC 2 News.
All right,
back
Bill.
to you in the studio.
Yeah, and you stay safe too. I mean, obviously, if you were going to leave that area of Jamaica Beach, the time has passed. Now just stay inside and stay safe.
Yeah, Chief said it best at that point. You know, do not get out on the roads. And this, I cannot stress this enough. You know, seawall is up on the east end there, right near the Pleasure Pier and over towards Stewart Beach. Down where Bill is in Jamaica Beach, there's no seawall. So they're at the behest of anything that's going to slam at them. Down in Matagorda, where our own Gage Golding is as well. We just got from Caroline Brown. She said they just got a 93-mile-an-hour wind gust. So the outer eye wall is starting to approach. I would not be shocked to see a 100-mile-an-hour wind gust within the next hour or so. So it's conditions are going to go downhill in the next 2-3 hours here quickly.
And when we talked to Gage a little bit ago, we're going to check in with him in just a bit. He was talking about how the house that they are in was just swaying and moving.
Which is designed to do, right?
Yeah, and he's ready now. He was saying he's feeling some of those winds. Gage, or seeing if you're inside or you're outside now. Yeah, what are you seeing? Feeling, rather.
Yeah, we're outside right now. This is, I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, I would like for Justin or Caroline to take a look at this on the radar, but I do believe that we are in the eye wall because the house is not shaking. The noise that you hear, there is a little bit of wind, but it's the water still rushing. Come over here, take a look at this. This is water rushing from the bay into the Colorado River, from the Gulf of Mexico into the Colorado River. You can kind of see it flowing out and away from us underneath the house. That was the dock that we were standing on earlier today, but right before we were going live here, we had all the lights off, and you could see clear up. You could see almost brightness. I'm assuming maybe from a nearby metro, but there was, before it was just all black. You couldn't see anything, but you could see kind of like a wall, if you will. So I'm not sure, Justin, Caroline, are we in the eye wall? Because this is as calm as it's been since we got here.
Yeah, hey, Gage, that is accurate. You are in the outer eye wall at this point, and my guess is, similar to when you were talking with Anthony about an hour ago, over the next hour, you will probably see your conditions get a little better, at least in terms of the wind of what you'll see. The storm surge is going to get worse, right? Don't think that say, all right, well, I'm in the eye here, we're good. Remember, the eye is a circle, and so the back half of that circle has to still come through. So if you've ever seen videos before where it gets real calm and then 20 minutes later the wind comes roaring back from the opposite direction, that's exactly what Gage is going to experience there. There's a shot on the Storm Tracker 2 live radar that we were just showing a second ago, Gage. Last we had checked, Gage, we saw a wind gust of about 93 miles an hour. And for the folks at home, I just saw you post this on Twitter and I know on social media about the truck. Give us the story about what's happening down there with that water that's getting close to where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, so I can definitely tell you the wind, this is the calmest the wind has been. You're looking at the truck right now. The water, it looks like it may have been, I mean, obviously when there's high winds, the waves are pushing up against the truck, but you can see the storm surge is still rushing in, but it doesn't look as high as it has been. But yeah, I mean, the truck was, and this is a lifted pickup truck, okay? This isn't your regular off-the-lot pickup truck. This truck is almost double, if not more, the height of a typical Ford pickup truck. And it was up over the tow hitch, up over the bumper, but you can see, look at how high the, you can see this is the rack line here of how high the wind was pushing, or excuse me, the water was pushing up here. That's how high the water was whenever you have all that wind-driven rain. But I mean, the truck, I'm definitely not going out there. You can see how quickly the water is moving as I scoot past Oscar, who's behind the lens right now, doing a fantastic job. But yeah, you could see it. It's rushing through. It's incredible to see that. But the conditions, I cannot. We're on Matagorda, so I'm not sure where those gusts are coming from, but here for sure, I can grab my anemometer real quick and get a number for you. Let me do that. But definitely not 96. I could promise you that. But it is night and day. The house is still for the first time in a long time. Let me grab this anemometer. Let's hop outside real quick and get you a number here that you can run off. We're going to go down towards you, Oscar. Remember before we got a 93.9. Where we're at right now,
where are you at right now, Gage?
23.7.
Okay.
23.7 right now.
Yeah.
That's the max gust. It's set to only show you the max speed.
Right.
So if I turn that off, you know, consistent winds of gusts between 15 and 20,
yeah,
which is obviously subtropical storm force winds. But yeah, I mean that's impressive to see that storm surge down there.
Right, and then Gage, while you're there, I just want to ask Justin, I mean, so he's seeing those winds die down. Say he is in the eye, we believe. The size of this storm, how long do we think it would be before the back end goes through?
You know, it's hard to tell at this point because that eye, and I mentioned this a second ago when we first came on the air here, that eye is not a perfect circle. You see how it's just kind of ragged in the center, it's a little wobbly looking. That means one of two things. One, it's starting to interact with the actual bay, the barrier part of Matagorda Bay itself, right? And so it's kind of chewing that up just a little bit. So that is helpful because it also means that we're going to start to slow down the storm, so some of that wind potential will back off. Now the storm surge will not. Now that Gage made a good point of that too, is that even though the winds you saw a second ago have gotten down to about 25 miles an hour versus the 90 that we were tracking just a little bit ago, is that the water is still being pushed up along, and it will continue to do so as that eye wall and eventually the center of that eye moves over top. Not only that, but further north up near where Bill is, as we get over towards Galveston, some of those outer bands, the thicker outer bands that you're seeing there in the Storm Tracker 2 live radar, are going to start pulling all that water and pushing it against Galveston, pushing it against west end of the island, out towards Surfside, pushing it into the bay. That's a spot I don't want to forget all our friends out in the bay as well. This is really going to be something where we could see upwards of 4 to 6 feet. Gage, in your spot right there, I think the latest I had seen was 6 to 7 feet. And there was some indication from some things I was looking at just about 20 minutes ago that said that that could be closer to 8 to 9 feet before it's all said and done. And obviously we'll just kind of have to see once it gets out of here and be able to check the markers and the threshold at that point. But I would say to your question, Amy, I'd say that you probably will see at least a decrease in these winds over the next 30 minutes to maybe 45 minutes. And then once that back end of that eye wall comes ashore, they're going to start roaring once again.
Gage, I want to ask you one more thing before we let you go. We were watching the truck there when we got on the air with you about 1 in the morning. You were talking about how the truck was almost completely underwater there. And has the water gone down? Has that storm surge gone down? Since you've been in the eye of the storm, and do we expect it to just keep going up?
Yeah, and I want to show you here because a little gust of wind came through. As you look out, I'm not sure. Oh, I just turned the light off myself. As you look out, the biggest kind of problem that we see here is whenever the wind moves across the water, it adds such a problem to the storm surge because it picks it up. Just as if you're at a windy day at the beach, the surf's a little bit rougher. It's the same thing here. It'll pick up and create waves that are bigger and stronger and more powerful and can do a lot more damage and carry a lot more weight. So, I mean, even down, if you look at these little benches down here, let me move this light down to the right. You see all that debris caught up in there? I mean, obviously the water was high enough up into that point to catch everything up in there. So yeah, during a lull in these winds where you don't have a 90, 100 mile an hour or plus, we maxed out the anemometer. We don't know what the top temperature or the top wind speed was. Yeah, it's pushing that stuff, and it is working and it's moving. So I'm very eager to see if water got into the vehicle, or if the vehicle works to begin with. But yeah, the water, it appears that it's gone down, but I would almost say it's like a false hope or a false positive, because that back end of the wall is going to come through and it can kick it up just as good. So like, you want to come out here and you want to look and, oh my gosh, we're in the eye wall, and it's such an amazing Mother Nature experience, but in the same time it's also very dangerous. You do not want to go out in this, especially because you don't know what's been undermined or what. But I do want to note, Justin, you said 8 to 9 feet of storm surge in some places.
Possible,
the locals here tell us that this is one of the highest parts of Beach Road, which goes from mainland to the Matagorda Peninsula. So according to the locals, and I always take the word of the locals, this is one of the highest points of that Beach Road. So that would make sense why we wouldn't have necessarily seen 9 feet of water, or even the forecast is 7 feet, but still a significant portion to come up and make you concerned about what is a jacked up, lifted up, souped up pickup truck that's made and designed and built to track storms. So definitely a concern, but it is at 180 from 30 minutes ago. It's where we are now, where we were sitting there swaying back and forth.
Okay. Well, Gage, you be safe out there. If you guys start to feel those winds picking back up when you get close to the back end of the eye wall, make sure that you signal to the control room, because I want to go back to you and I want to show folks the difference from what you're seeing out there now to what we saw Bill Spencer a second ago, Jamaica Beach, which is getting hammered pretty good, and then what you will probably experience in the next 45 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm going to enjoy it for now, though.
Right. Yeah, at 2:54 this morning. I mean, this is about the time that our meteorologist, our whole team has been saying since yesterday, this is the time period where we were concerned about the severe weather moving through.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we figured we were going to see anywhere. And Gage, we'll let you go here for a second ago so you guys can save battery and whatnot, but stay safe for us. Yeah, great point. So I think this is, if you're home now, I know a lot of, HISD was canceled late yesterday afternoon, I believe. Prairie View, Rice, HCC, Katy, right. They all went after that. We figured they would. It's a smart move for today. Just don't mess with it, right? But I expect if you're here watching us across the metro, or if you're out in some of the surrounding areas, if you're in Fort Bend County, if you're out in the Katy area, even if you're up on the north side here, Conroe up towards, let's say, the Woodland Spring, Atascocita over towards Bush, conditions are going to start going downhill from now through about 8, 9 o'clock this morning, right? Okay. So this is going to be a storm, and because of the sort of the storm itself is relatively compact, so it's going to hold together as it moves inland, right? So unlike Alberta was 400 miles in terms of the wind field. That's why we saw the beach erosion, but that was really the only effects we have. This is going to be like a little buzzsaw that just goes right up 99. So I think all of those west side spots certainly want to be make sure that they're very careful over the next 6 to 8 hours. And that's pretty much all this will really be in terms of the biggest impacts, that next 6 to 8 hours here.
All right, Justin.
Yeah, we'll check back in with you in just a bit. But right now, we're going to check in with Jeff Lindner with the Harris County Flood Control District. Thank you, sir, for being with us through the night. Lots going on to prepare for this, especially in Harris County, when we will see most of the rain later on, about 8 a.m. or so. Tell us, what is it looking like now, and what do you guys expect in the next few hours?
Yeah, we're starting to see some of those heavy rain bands now moving into the southern portion of the county, coming up from the coast. And so far, the rainfall has been manageable. We do have flash flood warning down there in Brazoria and Matagorda County. So we are anticipating the heavier rains and the higher rainfall rates to push into the metro area here over the next couple of hours. As we start to get around that 4, 5, 6 o'clock time frame, that's probably when we'll start to see some of the heaviest rains and the strongest winds. And so, as has been said over and over again, we really need people to stay where they're at through midday, at least maybe early afternoon on Monday, and then we'll assess the situation and see what kind of impacts we've had at that point.
So then all the bayous are looking good right now, Jeff. I mean, in terms of what you guys are seeing, it's looking like they can handle the rainfall that we're expecting.
So far, we're doing well. We just haven't had a whole lot of rain just yet. It's been down there along the coast, as your reporters are showing. And as it moves inland, we'll see. Right now we're confident we can handle anywhere from 8 inches or less. If we start getting higher than that, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 inches of rain, that's when we would be concerned with any of our creeks and bayous that would potentially come out of their banks. But right now, we have full capacity in our channels. We do have some storm surge down in the southeast part of the county and around Clear Lake. Those tides are starting to rise. The tide is coming up, and also we're getting that push of water toward the coast now. And so we are going to see those water levels come up down there in the southeast part of Harris County in the Clear Lake area. So there is going to be some coastal flooding in Harris County. Most of that is going to be mainly just roadway flooding and kind of nuisance flooding down along the bayfront and in Clear Lake as we get into Monday morning.
Yeah. Hey, oh, sorry. I was hey, Jeff, it's Justin. Quick question. Getting back to what you were talking about with the bay here as well. Have you seen anything overnight or in the last 4 or 5 hours that would indicate that the bay flooding is going to be a little higher than what the initial estimates were?
So far, I think we're doing pretty good. We're actually in low tide, starting to come out of low tide right now, and then heading up. And unfortunately, we're going to maximize push here coming up at the main onshore push in the bay is going to coincide with high tide. So we're still thinking 4 to 6 feet, a foot or two higher than what we saw with Alberto back in mid-June. But most of that is mainly lowland impacts and right along the coast impacts. We're not anticipating any, structure flooding or homes washed away or anything like that with these types of levels. So just a lot of street flooding and that down there, pier flooding and parking lot flooding down there around the Kemah, Seabrook, Shore Acres, and into Clear Lake area.
Jeff, for the metro area a little bit later on, when we are talking about our street flooding here, the typical spots that we will see, the feeder road, that sort of thing, what do residents need to know about that?
Yeah, we certainly anticipate street flooding, with the type of rainfall rates you can get with some of these feeder bands. We will have street flooding with that. Additionally, we are going to have strong winds, which is going to blow down a lot of leaves and tree limbs and stuff like that, which can clog up the drainage systems. And so it's almost a guarantee that we're going to have street flooding at this point. And so the biggest thing is hopefully most people moved their cars up off the street last night. If you had not, you still have a little bit of time to go out there and move it to somewhere higher. And then, we're really recommending people not be out. So no one should be out driving. If for some reason you are, turn around, don't drown, do not drive into high water areas. But it is not going to be pleasant here over, as Justin said, over the next 6 to 8 hours with the street flooding and the strong winds. It's not going to be something we want people out driving around in. It's going to be dangerous conditions. So again, as we have been saying since 10 p.m. last night, stay where you're at for the duration of this storm until we can assess the situation tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, and I think that's at least the good part of an overnight storm is that maybe people are already home, and then by the time they wake up and are hearing the storm, they're not going to want to go out because it's going to be in the thick of it, or you'll already see that high water. I know that in my neighborhood, as much as the city has tried to get all of that debris picked up from the derecho, there are still a lot of limbs and branches sitting out by people's curbs next to the street. And do we have concerns about that? I mean, you mentioned like debris and trees coming down with winds we see now, but we still already have a lot of debris on the ground.
Yeah, at this point, there's not a whole lot that can be done. Hopefully folks kind of move some of that stuff out of the drainage gutters and stuff like that, so the water can flow. And hopefully, we don't get winds strong enough to blow that material around, but we certainly could. And so obviously that is, a situation we're dealing with back-to-back big weather events, especially on the wind side of this, only about a month and a half apart here. So that's certainly a concern as we go into the heavy rain and the stronger winds here over the next few hours.
Yeah. So, if people in the city have time to go and move vehicles, then they probably have time to just go make sure that your gutter is clear right now, that at least there aren't things blocking it, in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, that time is getting really short, and so hopefully most of this was taken care of already yesterday. We've been talking about these preparations now for several days. We've been watching the storm for, I don't know, Justin, 7 days now, come up through the Caribbean, and so, hopefully most of this has been taken care of. The time is getting really short to do anything else. Yeah.
Are there any high water spots that you've noticed so far in any parts of Harris County that you guys are watching, Jeff?
We don't have any from rainfall. We do have some from the storm surge down in Seabrook along Toddville Road, and also in Shore Acres around Taylor's Bayou, and also by the Lynchburg Ferry in southeast Harris County. So those are the three spots we have issues with flooding at the moment. Again, that's seawater flooding, storm surge flooding.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, you always are in the know, have all the information. I'm sure we're going to want to check back in with you later this morning as the storms move through into our area in Harris County.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Jeff Lindner with the Harris County Flood Control District. Thank you so much. All right, we are headed over to Mario Diaz now. He's in Galveston on the west end. We checked in with you just a bit ago. Are you still feeling this heavy bands of rain just blowing through, Mario?
Oh, absolutely. And they're going to be going here for quite some time. Obviously, just take a look behind me here. You can see how it's having an impact there on the vegetation at this complex that we're at. If you look high up, you can see the palm trees as well, how they're just flapping there right beside that electrical line pole there that you can see. We picked this location because it gives us a little bit of protection from what we've been trying to get away from when we were out there earlier at San Luis Pass. The challenge that you had over there was that you had some signs, and we were really concerned about that because obviously a sign rips off, it becomes a projectile. So we're inside this garage. We've been protected for most of the time, which is great. We have the storm tracker parked on this side to block off that wind. So this was the angle that we did, and then obviously if you just come out, you get an impression of what this wind is like and how it's really picking up. You can see again that it's coming from the direction of southeast to northwest, and it's been falling this way the entire time throughout the course of this evening. The beauty of this location is, boom, we come right over here and we have ourselves inside of another parking garage as Roger Franco, our photographer, continues to stay out there. Oh, he's covered up. Roger got the shot. Let's come on over here, buddy. We're going to come right over here to the garage, Roger. And we're covered over in this location. So this is why we're parked in the location that we have. We had two easy areas to block us from the wind to provide us with different images of how this wind is impacting this section of Galveston Island on the west end. Now, keep in mind, you had people that were told to voluntarily evacuate yesterday. They also asked everybody for a mandatory evacuation of any kind of low-lying vehicles, your golf carts, RVs. I know that was the case out in Surfside. And we saw people yesterday morning leaving from Surfside early, around 4:30 in the morning with their RVs. They wanted to hightail it out of town. Here, you do have a lot of individuals who still left their cars in their park. They feel that everything's going to be okay. You have to keep in mind the following. Let's get a step in just a little bit more to keep us out of this wind, Roger. You have to keep in mind the following. This is a very big week here in Galveston. The week of the 4th of July is a big week from an economic perspective, and the week after the 4th of July, because they tend to have families who spread out their vacations. But if you look right here behind me, you only have one vehicle and no other vehicles that are parked. The mayor last night, Craig Brown, told me that, yeah, this is going to be an issue for us. And it concerns them, but it's what they're dealing with this week. Keep in mind, the storm comes in on a Sunday. Most people checked out today, and we're heading home already, so that helped them out. But they're gonna, he said, we're not going to see the amount of people that we usually see on the days following in the next week after the 4th of July. But you can just see that the wind continues to just blow here at various speeds from the gusts. It's been off and on, but this has been pretty consistent now in terms of what you're seeing for the last hour, and from what we're hearing from Justin and Caroline back there, that it's going to continue to stay this way for quite some time, as we still have several more hours left of this storm, Beryl, as it makes its way through southeast Texas. That's the very latest here. It's by the San Luis Pass on Galveston Island. I'm Mario Diaz, KPRC 2 News. Back to you guys.
All right.
Mario, thank you.
And just looking at the difference with the wind there from where Gage is, and it looks like that is about, well, between where Bill Spencer is and where Mario is, I'm sorry, is about 14 miles apart. So all of these are, I mean, you know, just right along the coast where we have all of our reporter stations.
Well, and that's a really good, that's a great point too, Amy, is because you see the difference between where Gage is, where he's in the center, right, where the eye wall is coming on shore, and so the wind is backed off, and then you go a little further to the east where some of those stronger wind bands, I mean, again, remember, it's a counterclockwise rotation, right? So they're just whipsawing around the center of that storm, and you saw just how much more intense the conditions are with both Bill and Mario there as well.
Yeah, making it hard to walk, even stand in those high winds.
That's right.
All right, we are going to check in now with our Owen Conflenti. He is at the Galveston County Convention Center. Good morning, Owen. Tell us what you're seeing out there as well.
Hey, good morning, y'all. What a night here in southeast Texas. Beryl coming ashore, and we're beginning to feel the effects, certainly, here at the Galveston Island Convention Center. And as some of my colleagues to the south of me have been reporting, the conditions have gotten really consistently bad. The wind gusts, they don't come and go as much. It's pretty consistent. You can see the palm trees blowing in the wind. Every so often, there's a gigantic flash of blue light followed by no thunder. So I'm pretty sure it's not lightning, and then I lose the cell phone or the lights flicker or something like that. But so far, the power has stayed on for the most part. We've seen a few Galveston Island police coming up and down the seawall here as we are at the convention center, seawall and 57th Street. And I mean, here's a car at a red light right here. So, you know, it is Galveston. You're going to have your handful of folks who are always curious. And who knows, maybe they just got off work. Quite a night so far, and we're going to continue to follow it throughout the morning. I did take a walk over to the seawall just a short time ago. High tide is about 4 hours away, and the tide is starting to touch the seawall. It's a few feet away, so I expect the seawall to be hit a little bit, but if the storm surge predictions are accurate, then the seawall will be fine and the water will stay where it needs to be. But that's the latest right now for the Galveston Island Convention Center. We're going to take shelter here in our cove, continue to monitor conditions. We may move around a bit as well if the conditions demand it. And Justin, I'll let you take the lead on that one.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Well, you're there at the convention center. That is right there at the San Luis, right? It seems like in past storms, that's usually where Galveston County emergency officials sort of gather. I mean, are we seeing anything like that? I mean, are we seeing Galveston County sort of emergency responders in one spot that you've seen from that location?
I haven't, Amy. I haven't. To be fair, I haven't been all over the island. We literally came in on 45, busted a right, checked out the Pleasure Pier. It's like, okay, you know, there's not much to see there, so we started making our way here to the convention center. We are on the front of the convention center, so we are on the seawall. I have not been around the backside of the property. I'll tell you what I have seen is a handful of Galveston Island Police and Galveston County Sheriff's deputies' vehicles, marked vehicles, driving down the seawall. We did see one fire truck, lights and sirens on, that passed us maybe 30 minutes ago, and you know, who knows where they were headed. But no, I have not seen one gathering spot. I mean, it was interesting too. Giovanni, my photographer, and I were driving in, and you know, three guys with plastic bags looked like they were coming back from, you know, grabbing some tacos or something, like nothing was going on. Now, presumably they're inside at this point. But you know, the attitude is a little different down here on Galveston Island.
Hey, Owen, quick question while I have you here. When you guys were headed down, or that you've been there the last 10, 15 minutes, have you seen any sort of lights flickering, any sort of like power disruptions, anything like that as the winds are starting to pick up?
You know, we have literally right here where we are, undercover, by the way. This wind that I'm catching is, we're in somewhat of a protected place. But literally right here at the convention center, we've seen a handful of flashes. Initially, Giovanni and I were talking. We said, well, is that lightning? What's happening? The lights are flickering, but there was no thunder to follow. So presumably some kind of transformer or some electrical connection somewhere. And here, I'll give you what the people want. Let's go out and see how bad this wind really is. We'll get around the truck. I mean, guys, you can't even look at it. You don't even want to turn your face to it.
So
it's just, you know, you guys know. You've been out here before. I don't have to tell you.
All right, we'll let you take cover. Oh, and thank you for that live look at everything that's happening there. You were saying there were no lightning strikes.
No, that's why I was going to come up with a point. Is the only I've seen so far have been just north of where Gage is, as that outer eye wall, right? Which would make sense. That's where the tightest convection is, where the strongest part of the storm is. A couple of quick updates that I'm getting from, and I'm going to be on weather Twitter here all morning as well. So if I get stuff here, I'll pass it along. Center Point's got now 21,000 folks that are without power. I expect that number to go up fast in the next 3 to 6 hours, right? Very low, but obviously it's not hit the metro area at this point where it's really going to start picking up. Not only that, but Palacios is getting 81-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We're getting reports of 89 down towards Port O'Connor. Right, so that's down towards Matagorda, and then 86 near Matagorda, and 81, as I said, in Palacios as well. So this is just an indication over the next 4 or 5 hours here, these conditions are going to really start to go downhill fast.
We're going to be feeling it. All right, we're going to head over now to KPRC2's Rochelle Turner joining us in Surfside. We were with you just about a half hour ago or so, and now I can see these conditions are deteriorating. Rochelle.
Yeah, the wind has picked up and it is intensified here in the past 30 minutes. When we checked in, that wind gust was at 60 miles per hour. I just checked my phone right before I went and provided you guys with this live shot, and it is 75 miles per hour. So we're feeling those hurricane-like winds out here. And the rain, it feels like pellets hitting us in the face. You can actually hear Hurricane Beryl howling. Now, I'm going to kind of take a step back to kind of show you guys just how strong the wind speed is. But this is something that we don't want people to do because we know that debris could be flying, but it's extremely strong. And the wind is starting to pick up. You can see some of the storm surge in this area that is starting to come in from Surfside Beach. It's really strong. I'm going to walk more towards Michael because this gas station is keeping us in a shelter right now. Now, we have seen the power flick on and off, but we're going to show you a little bit of what we're seeing out here. If you take a look straight ahead, those are porta potties, and I was trying to show you guys one that actually blew down the street, but the wind is just too strong right now. And if you take a look over here at the street lights, they have been flickering on and off. We've been keeping our eyes on debris that is flying through the air. We see different people that have just pretty much tried to stick it out, ride out this storm here, just kind of parking everywhere here at this gas station in this area. But I will say that the wind and the rain is probably the worst thing right now here on Surfside. It feels like little pellets that are hitting us, and this is something that has really picked up here in the past 20 minutes or so. We saw that wind speed go from 30 to 40 miles per hour to 50 to 60 to 70 miles per hour, and then that wind gust, it's incredible right now. So the rain is just coming out sideways, and if you are watching us right now, you want to make sure that you're being extremely careful. And so really, guys, the rain and the wind are what is really making this storm just so uncomfortable out here right now. We're just getting soaked with rain that feels like little pellets, and the wind, it just pushes you away if you're not standing wide enough to kind of go along with it. So that's kind of like what we've been feeling out here. We've been asking some of the producers and some of the meteorologists, what is the wind speed supposed to reach out here in this area if this storm has sort of the strongest part of the storm has made landfall here on Surfside Beach. So we're not exactly sure. We've been watching the radar, and we can kind of see it spinning over us, and you can actually hear the storm howling. Kind of take a look at it moving just this way, some of the wind. And so I actually went out there earlier to try to see how high the storm surge got, and it got up to about my knees. And so it's extremely dangerous, and the wind speed it's insane right now. I just checked my phone, and the wind gust is 70 miles per hour. So it's pretty intense out here on Surfside. I think we're starting to get all of that bad part that Gage was seeing down in Matagorda. I think all of this is now starting to make its way to this area.
It looks very, from the 4 shots from the locations we've seen in Galveston County, yours looks like the heaviest wind, the strongest wind right now, Rochelle. So be careful.
Yeah, just take a listen to it right now. It's just howling. We can hear it,
Rochelle.
It's pretty strong.
It sounds basically like 1,000 bees from what we're hearing here in the studio.
Right.
Incredible.
And so we're just watching, tracking the storm, and so we're just going to keep monitoring the conditions.
Okay. Hey, you get in there and get safe. Okay. We'll get back to you guys here in just a bit. You saw a second ago. That's it, right? So all of our crews, Bill Spencer, Mario Diaz, Gage, and then of course Rochelle, right here along the coast. And this is where we're seeing some of the heaviest, not only wind, but of course, as Jeff Linder said a second ago, that storm surge that's now starting to pile its way up across parts of the area. We've got a new flood advisory that just popped. That's that green box. And of course, that flash flood warning that you see here, that goes until 4:45. So we've got a lot going on. And this is just the beginning. I cannot stress enough that areas across, South Harris County into the metro, all over towards Katy, Sugar Land, Fort Bend County, we are just getting into this. This is going to be 4 or 5 hours where we're going to continue to see some very, very heavy conditions. So let's jump in a couple of other spots, and we're going to get over to meteorologist Caroline Brown. She's got a lot more more talking about some of the winds that we're seeing, and also not only that, but the potential for what will likely be some of that heavy storm surge starting to slide its way up. So right now, this is what we have from Angleton, Lake Jackson over to Freeport. You can see this huge heavy rain band sliding closer and closer to them. And if we jump in even a little tighter on this, just to get you a better sense, there's Oyster Creek and Freeport, and then right across these parts of the barrier islands, that's where they're really seeing the brunt of the storm at this hour and what we're going to be watching. There's the center. And again, when the center makes landfall is when they call it official landfall. It's been making landfall here for the better half of about almost 45 minutes at this point. But this is where Gage was, as you saw a second ago, and he said that those winds had gone down from around almost 95 miles an hour, which what they were reporting earlier, down to about 25. So if you're dropping 70-mile-an-hour winds, that means that you're probably in the center, or at least close to the center of the eye itself. Now, I mentioned this earlier at the top of the hour, that there's not a whole lot of real tight center to that because the storm is starting to interact with land, and so it's going to get a little more wobbly. Still doesn't mean that it isn't going to pack a pretty good punch because, one, you're already seeing what our crews are seeing down on the coast, but then also the backside of this storm system right here from Port Lavaca sliding on over as you get a little tighter. Let me jump in towards Palacios there. All of that is going to slingshot its way through Matagorda Bay, and that is where we will likely see Gage in maybe an hour or so, and I guarantee you his conditions are going to look a lot worse than what he was seeing out there now. So that's the first part of it. Now, if we jump a little closer, I'm going to get into the metro here, and I want to talk about some of the bands, especially right across here. Let's put a stop on this just so you get a better sense of what we're seeing. Manville, Alvin, Santa Fe, over to Texas City, right outside of Highway 6. From there to Pearland into Friendswood, if you're watching us in this area right here, within the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to see a real heavy push of not only some rain, but also the wind as well. That's going to be the other big issue that we're dealing with out there. As I mentioned, Caroline's going to have a lot more on this and why these winds are really starting to pick up. But a quick look at those wind speeds, anywhere from 40 mile an hour in Galveston, 46 at Bay City, nearly 60 mile an hour. These are sustained winds, mind you. So that's what you were seeing with Rochelle a second ago. It's not like it's just a quick wind gust and then it stops. These are starting to pick up. We're now getting 30 mile an hour winds in El Campo, 22 in Sugar Land, 24 as you get to downtown. Some of the wind gusts clocking in towards almost tropical storm force winds from Houston on down to Sugar Land, and we're starting to see high-end tropical storm force winds to Category 1 storm winds right towards Palacios. So I want to show you the future track on this, and then we're going to get over to Caroline with a lot more deep dive on what we're seeing, because as I said a second ago, this is not over, especially for folks at the coast. We're going to continue to keep this big fetch of this heavy rain coming on shore over the next 2 to 3 hours. By about 7 o'clock, a lot of folks will be getting up and getting out to work. If you do not have to leave, this is definitely the day to stay home from the Woodlands. Downtown, you can see this heavy band, and all of this is going to continue to pull not only the rain, but this is when we'll start to see the threat for maybe even a couple of quick spin-up tornadoes. Can't rule those out either today as we get in towards, let's say, 9, 10 o'clock. That band starts to shift off to the east. Here's the center of the storm. This will likely still be packing at least 70, 80 mile an hour winds. Wouldn't be shocked to see that. So that's Katy, Sugar Land, out towards, let's say, Thompson's, Needville, over to El Campo, parts of Wharton County. And then now we're starting to see some interaction on the north side from Walker County over towards Lake Livingston into Liberty, out towards Bryant College Station in the Brazos. And then by noon, all of that starts to push northward. I would expect to see widespread power outages by that point over the next, let's say, 3:21 now. That's noon, the next 7 to 9 hours. Then as we get to about 3 o'clock, you see just how fast the storm is moving up and out of here. As we get into the overnight hours to your Tuesday, the center of the storm is long gone up into Arkansas, but the tail end of this may be pulling in an additional chance for some showers and thunderstorms flaring up as we get into Tuesday afternoon. And for folks that have lost power, this is only going to add insult to injury because the amount of heat and humidity that is going to be here as that storm system finally exits is really going to be uncomfortable. So cannot stress enough, if you do not have to leave, please do not. Next 4 to 6 hours are going to be critical, and that is when we're going to start to see conditions across much of the metro area really fall apart very quickly. Now let's get over to Caroline Brown with more. Caroline?
That's right. I wanted to start by talking just a bit about the storm surge, the rainfall, the tornado threat. Where can we expect it to be? And the answer is really right here in Houston and anywhere in the front right quadrant of the storm. So let's break down what we expect to see. This is our hurricane currently making landfall. And when we look at a hurricane, we typically divide it we typically are going to divide it here in quadrants. So these are going to be our quadrants. The key to looking at the quadrants is that this system is rotating counterclockwise. That means on the left side of the storm, a lot of that air is coming from land. It's drier air. You're not going to get that big push of storm surge. But on the right side, the dirty side of the storm, that air is moving in from shore, and this is pushing in our big waves. We've got waves out in the Gulf up to 13 feet, and all of this wind is pushing it on shore with every single fetch. Those waves moving in on top of the anticipated rainfall. So with every single rain band that pushes its way on shore, we're going to see those impacts continue to grow, especially for areas on the right side of that circulation. This is where we have the heaviest of those rain bands, and this is also where we have all of the water starting to pile up on shore. You'll notice right now those deep red colors, that's going to be a blinding tropical downpour, not just coming down, but actually moving sideways. A lot of these little raindrops, they actually feel more like projectiles when you're out there. So please make sure you stay inside, dropping heavy rainfall all along the Gulf Freeway and continuing to push its way closer towards Houston. So right now, wind gusts, of course, our highest wind gusts, that's going to be closest to the center of the circulation. Palacios, a 77-mile-per-hour gust. That is Category 1 hurricane strength. Also, Surfside Beach, 78-mile-per-hour gusts. We've seen gusts up to 90 miles per hour. So this is a very strong system. Take this seriously. As Justin said, this is just the beginning. A lot of folks hear landfall and think, whew, the worst is done. But really, landfall is just the beginning with these systems. Now, I talked about the waves out in the Gulf, so I actually want to show you what we're currently measuring, and these are coming from buoys out in the water. Right now, 10-foot waves just offshore, but let's talk a little bit more locally. Currently at Surfside Beach, we're seeing waves just offshore at 13 feet, 11 feet off Galveston, and this is where the fetch is pushing that high water onto shore. Right now, we are expecting our high tide in Galveston to be around 7:33 a.m., so about 4 hours from now. And unfortunately, that's going to be the same time that we continue to see this water pulling itself on shore. That's going to compound with high tide. And because of this, peak storm surge is looking very high. We're talking up to 6 or 7 feet of storm surge possible for Galveston Island here. 6 to 9 feet not out of the question from Lake Jackson down towards areas in the bay, Matagorda Bay that is. And this is just talking about bays. We also have to think about lake surge. Areas like Clear Lake, we often do see that water level rise. And because of all the rainfall, you can typically add about an extra foot of water into the lake. So a closer look is going to show you areas like Palacios certainly going to see that elevated storm surge, and we haven't yet reached that high tide. We're still coming up from low tide, so that's going to create a big difference. By the way, sustained winds, Justin, still looking incredibly impressive. Palacios, sustained winds 56 miles per hour, so it looks like those winds calming down just a bit, likely interacting with the eye.
That makes a lot of sense, too, that they are. But the interesting thing is that now what you're looking in towards, you know, downtown at 24, 29 in Lake Jackson, 46 in Bay City, those numbers are going to flip, right? Yep. The coast is going to start dropping in terms of their windfall, wind field, I should say. And then we're going to see those numbers really starting to pick up, as I said a second ago. And actually, okay, if while we're getting to Rochelle's shot, so this is Rochelle over at Surfside. Yeah, it's just, I mean, wow. No, she needs to stay safe. Yeah, that looks like they're moving, which is probably good at this point. They need to get out of there. That's not a good spot. But I mean, that'll give you an indication of the kind of conditions that we're seeing down at the coast right now. Here is Mario Diaz. I mean, wow. Yeah, this is. Okay, this is just his shot. So they are in and safe. That's over on the west end of the island in Galveston. I'm going to hush for a second because I want you to hear the wind. Listen to this. I think that was a transformer right there. Yep.
And now those lights are gone.
And now those lights are gone. There you go. That's a perfect indicator of what we're probably going to start seeing as this moves in towards, you know, parts of Brazoria County, Wharton, going up into Sugar Land, going in towards parts of Harris County. I wouldn't be shocked out in Waller County near Sealy if folks are going to start losing power here in the next 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, and speaking of power outages, I mean, we've been monitoring CenterPoint Energy. Right now they're showing about 49,000 customers without power. They don't have that power outage map up anymore that we saw at the beginning of the derecho. So people are like telling them, we can see on Twitter, like so we can see where the outages are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still relatively low, but just about 15 minutes ago, you said it showed 21,000.
21,000, right.
So
doubled it basically, and then some.
And I know a lot of those Galveston County areas, I'm sorry, they're not even with CenterPoint. That's Texas, New Mexico power. So those are probably not outages where we're seeing all of our crews right now.
And we're also going to be dealing with, you talked about this earlier, is tornado warnings that are possibly going to be popping up as the storm makes its way north.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked to that. If you remember during Harvey, we saw tornado warnings that were up across parts of Fort Bend County, and there was multiple, I mean, dozens of them at this point, right? I remember when Frank and I were here, I had actually just balled up a bunch of pieces of paper like on our legal pad here, just to kind of throw at the anchors to say, hey, I got a new one, I got a new one, I got a new one, right? So I think that is a threat as we transition, as the storm starts to move inland and we start to get some of the frictional effects. It slows down a little bit and you get that whipsaw, and that's when we'll start to see those tornado warnings. I would not be shocked to see those by 6, 7 a.m. this morning. But I heard we just have Mario who's out right now. Mario, 1, are you safe? 2, give us the latest of what's happening with your conditions.
No, we're safe. We've had 2 transformers go off here, Justin, in the last few minutes. I heard one just went right across from the other side of this wall here. I got this bad boy right here blocking me on the wind, so we kind of set up a little bit of a barrier. Storm tracker helping us here, but the moment you go right outside of it, right, you're dealing with this, and that's the reality. So we're going to go back into the area where we're at. You saw the power go out when we had that live shot from my photojournalist Roger Franco. Great thing about this complex we're at, they've had multiple backup generators engaged, so power's back on in the complex, and there are people here who are riding this storm out. The question, though, obviously, though, Justin, as you see these winds intensify, these winds are much stronger than what we've been seeing here throughout the course of the evening, and this has just happened here in the last 10 minutes. The question is, how much further are they going to get in terms of their speed and their power, and how long will it last? Because behind this wind is obviously the surge, and that's what's helping bring this water up, and that's located just about a quarter of a mile from where I stand right now. So that's the concern for not only the residents here, but Justin, also for us, because we're trying to identify at what point, with the high tide coming in about 4 hours, do we start searching for our own higher ground with regards to storm tracker.
I think that's a very good decision there, Mario. I would say, you know, you guys have probably, I think your conditions are going to stay pretty nasty there within the next hour before you may see them back off just a bit. So the eye wall is just about to come on shore near East Matagorda Bay. So you guys are caught in one of those outer bands, right? So you're caught in one of those outer bands right now, but it's just close enough to the eye wall that you're getting sort of a double whipsaw effect, which is why those wind gusts are starting to clock closer to 80, 85, almost 90 miles an hour. And that's why the conditions that you've been seeing that you had, you just mentioned a second ago, 2 transformers down. It looks like at least where you're at there, I can see that street light is on. So that spot has power, correct?
No, yeah, but that spot, when I started my live shot, that light right there, it was out. It was completely out. It's because of the transformer, excuse me, the backup generators that they have here at this location that they were able to get the light back up. And I also want to bring you into perspective here with regards to what we're talking about with our other vehicle that got caught up with some water. Just look at the height that we're talking about with these vehicles, right? Yeah. These are our storm tracker vehicles. You have big tires, high water vehicles. The door, you got to really climb in to get into it, right? You got to step up here and then really get up high. And yet to think about how the guys down in Matagorda, Gage and Oscar, our photographer there, our photojournalist, were impacted by the bay coming in and getting up to the height of this. Just shows you how much water and how quickly it's moving. And we're obviously, Justin, relying on you and Caroline to give us the information to make sure that we can start getting out of here at a time before, again, that high tide is set to come in.
Yeah, I think you've probably got at least an hour, maybe 90 minutes before you'll have to start making that decision. But obviously, you know, you're out there in the field right now. If it gets unsafe, you guys make the signal and get to higher ground, and we'll find you when you're in a better spot.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is the West End. As you mentioned, that seawall. Oh,
is that
there goes another transformer.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that one?
Yep.
Yeah, it went that one. That one just went there. I was expecting that at some point to happen. And you know, if you ever been in a hurricane like this is normal. The lights start to flicker green and blue, and that's the transformers that start to go. And that's when you know the storm is coming in your direction, and it's starting to really intensify. I remember during Laura, I was out in Beaumont, and first the power goes out in the strip mall, and goes, there goes the power. And at that point, you know the power. Oh, there it goes again. There's another transformer. Wow, second time.
Wow.
Look, right behind me now. Watch. It's all out, and let's give it some time, because it takes about 1 minute for the backup power inside of this area to start to kick in, and let's see if it does again. But this is what happens once that storm starts to show up. There it is.
There you go. And you're in a parking garage for a condominium complex there on the West End?
Yeah, it's a condominium complex. It's literally, Amy, it's right on the other side of the San Luis Pass, coming into Galveston from Surfside.
Okay.
And it's right there.
Yeah.
So you have, we're going to do a quick wipe. Forgive us. It's live television in the middle of a hurricane. But we've got the power comes right back on. It's a more modern complex that they built here, you can tell. And that has happened 4 times already. And each time the power has come back on. But I'm starting to look over here at this one pole over here. It's going to force us to move. Yeah. We're starting to see on that pole that it's going to force us to move here real soon.
Well, that would be
there it goes again.
Yeah, there it goes. Yeah,
too.
I was going to say, I think it's probably time for you guys to head in and pick another location. That's getting a little dangerous there, Mario.
Well, let's wrap things up. That's it for us right now.
Right.
We're out of here. We'll talk to you guys in a bit, okay, guys?
Yeah, definitely
Mario,
stay safe out there.
Okay, I think we're going to check back in now with our Owen Conflenti. He is joining us from the Galveston County Convention Center. It looks like the winds are just picking up there, Owen.
Yeah, definitely worse. Wind and rain is steady. It is consistent. The wind speeds that were gusts an hour ago are now nonstop. We do have a few stragglers about. Let's see who this is. This might be Sheriff Department, PD. Let's see who we got here. All right, that's Galveston PD. How you guys doing? Interestingly enough, and I don't know if it might be too late to find them any help, there's a couple people at the bus stop. I think that's a bus stop on the other side of the street. I don't know, Giovanni, if you can see them over there. It's pretty dark, but I saw somebody sitting over there earlier. I walked across the street to just check out the seawall. The tide is coming up to the bottom of the steps now. And as we know, high tide's still a few hours away, a little after 7 o'clock here on the island. I just saw PD make a U-turn. I'm just going to kind of keep a side eye to this and see what's going on. I don't know if they noticed that person at the bus stop or not. But yes, guys, I don't have any tools here to tell you the wind speed, but I can tell you from experience, this is pretty bad. Yeah. This is a bona fide tropical storm into hurricane. You know, I mean, here we go.
Yeah. Right, and I'd
wind in the face, needles on your face.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd asked you a few minutes ago, like, are you seeing any emergency officials gathering there? And our colleague Robert Arnold said, no, Amy, they've built the Emergency Management Center for Galveston County in Dickinson now. That's why Owen doesn't see all those people there. Right. I'm like, oh, thank you for that.
Well, and that, and remember when it was this garage here that flooded in a place we used to gather, and it was like, oh, I guess we can't be here anymore. And I thought about that too after we chatted last time. Yeah,
exactly. Well, stay safe out there. We're going to check back in. Another reporter just up the way from you, Bill Spencer. He is in Jamaica Beach. Be careful, Owen. Bill?
Sophia, I got you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Bill.
All right, we are. Okay, I can't tell because we're getting hammered like crazy out here. We're in Jamaica Beach. We're at the City Hall. This is where the police department is conducting their operations right now. They got about four different cars out on the road right now, and they are carefully driving down every street, making sure there's nobody out in this insane weather that we're having right now. Again, the winds just keep picking up. They've been getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Sideways wind, of course. The beach is right behind me. Take a look at the flagpole up there. You can tell. That's all you got to see, and you can tell what's happening. I want to tell you that the 1,080 or so people that live in this small city, the city of Jamaica Beach, I've been told that about at least a third of them, 300 to 400 of the families have left, have gotten out of town, heeded the voluntary evacuation order, and of course, right here at City Hall, the police are getting ready for tomorrow, the stuff they're going to have to encounter tomorrow. So should the creeks and the waterways begin to flood, the streets begin to flood, water coming out of the banks, they're going to have their equipment ready so they can do emergency rescues if they have to. So we've got the wave runners right here standing by already. One of the officers right over here making his way to a vehicle. Another officer behind him. I mean, these guys are really working hard tonight. Again, their whole job to make sure that people get off the streets and there's nobody, driving in this area because the conditions are just ridiculous. If you're out on the roadway in the Jamaica Beach right now area, I mean, you can't see anything. It's just blinding sideways rain. Our vehicle was swaying back and forth, our live van being pushed all over the road because of the high winds. So it's really insanely dangerous to be out here right now. Don't do it. If you're in this area, the Jamaica Beach area, and you're thinking about going to work in the morning, I would say forget it. Again, the conditions continue to worsen. The wind is getting stronger along with the rain, the sideways rain. It's pretty tough. Reporting live in Jamaica Beach, this is Bill Spencer, KPRC 2 News.
Yeah, because if you are in trouble, you get in trouble. No one's coming to help you right now. Bill, thank you for that. You stay safe out there right now.
With those conditions. And now we want to go over to Justin Stapleton in our weather center because they've got an important warning to tell people about right now.
Yeah, we figured we were going to see this, and this is our first tornado warning of the morning so far. So let's jump right in on this here. I'm going to get a little tighter on this just so you get a better sense of what we're seeing. So we figured we were going to see some of these, and that is what we've got. So this goes until 4 o'clock. That does include parts around Thompson's, around Siena as well. So if you're in the Thompson, Siena area, this is radar indicated. Is that right, Caroline? We don't have anything on the ground?
Radar indicated.
Okay, radar indicated. And this is what I figured we were going to see because of these bands that are starting to come on shore. So you're getting a little bit of a whipsaw effect. And that's part of that big band that we saw a second ago from right outside of Pearland and into Manville. Let me widen this out so I can take that off real quick and just get you a sense of what we're seeing. So let me put this back into motion here because you saw a second ago we've got a lot going on the board. Let me jump into a couple of other areas. We do have that flash flood warning, and that does include parts of Matagorda and Brazoria County. That goes until 4:45. And then, of course, you have this aerial flood advisory where we've got till 6:15. And then, of course, in the center of that, or just north of there, we have that tornado warning. And this just a second ago, Caroline told me, is moving. Is that west?
West at 50.
Okay, moving west at 50 miles an hour. So anything that would try to sort of form within this, I think at this point we're going to be looking at something that's just moving so fast, it's going to be very difficult to be able to pick that up. However, let's take a look at what the velocity product is showing. And velocity basically says, what are you seeing out here in terms of potential, from any kind of spin itself. So if we jump a little tighter on this, it's probably this little notch right here. This is kind of what we're looking at as you see it. And in fact, I'm going to draw this out just so you get a sense. It's right in here, which is probably what we're going to be looking at, or at least what the computer is looking at as it tries to figure out, is there anything moving? So let me put this into motion the last hour and just get you a sense. It looks like, yep, when they went under. So it's probably some sort of a quick rotation within that little cluster itself. Moving west at 50 miles an hour. That goes until 4 o'clock, so about the next 15 minutes. And I expect to see more of these. I don't think this is the last one that we're going to see. There'll be more of these as we go in through the rest of the night tonight as well. So let me back this out and let's get back over to the radar just to get you a better sense of what we're seeing in terms of not only the heavy rain potential, but just a lot more headed out there as well. Okay, so let me back this out. So we'll do a quick little reset. Just saw a second ago, it looks like the center of the eye wall, or the center of the eye, is making landfall right now. So I don't know if we have official landfall, Caroline. If you happen to pick up on that, let me know if they say it. But I mean, we're close at this point. We've been seeing not only some of the heaviest rain and, of course, some of the heaviest wind that's starting to pick up across much of the coastline now. So that includes Galveston towards the west end of the island, where you saw our own Bill Spencer and, of course, Mario Diaz. Transformers are starting to blow in those areas as well. But then as you go a little further down the coast towards Surfside, where Rochelle Turner is, and then, of course, Owen up at the convention center. And then now we've got, Gage Golding, who's been down there. And we'll get back to Gage here in just a second or two, because I want to kind of get at the conditions from what everybody else has been seeing. This is the difference, is that he's in sort of the eye, the calm of the storm right now. I've been seeing a lot on Weather Twitter about some other folks, storm chasers, that are right about in his location, and everybody's just in the calm with that eye moving on shore as we speak. We've got flood warnings out, as you see, across parts of the Brazos River as well. Expect to see more of those. And again, this is just the beginning, that we're going to start to see conditions going downhill across the metro, out to Katy, Sugar Land, down towards parts of Fort Bend County. So let me put a stop on this just to kind of get a quick reset. If you're watching us here, it's 3:44. We have our first tornado warning of the morning. That does include parts of Thompson towards Siena. That goes until 4 o'clock. That is a radar indicated tornado, meaning that there is nothing that we're seeing on the ground. I just checked the velocity a second ago, and it doesn't look like there's anything with a sort of a tight couplet, meaning that you've got wind going in and outbound, sort of that crisscrossing, the shearing of the winds. But I would expect, with the storm starting to come on shore here over the next 3 to 4 hours, there will likely be more of these tornado warnings that are coming out. So this just gives you an overall sense of what we're seeing here over the next 4 to 5 hours as conditions start to fall apart. I want to show you a live shot. This is from right here at the KPRC2 studios. This is our Empower Pharmacy camera, and we've actually got it pointed back off to the south. This is the south side of the station here at Southwest and Gessner, if you're familiar with where we are at. So that goes down towards Beltway 8 as it goes north and then southbound, and we'll see what kind of conditions over the next 1 to 2 hours as that starts to get closer to us, exactly what we're going to be dealing with. And obviously the other parts of the story is it is raining and it is just sloppy. You can see the winds right now at the station here are starting to get upwards of around 20 to 25 miles an hour. And of course, we're all under tropical storm warnings, hurricane warnings to the coast. All of this basically from down to the coast, moving inland. These are, you might as well just call these power outage potentials, because that's what we're going to see as this storm system gets closer to us. Let me head over to Caroline Brown, who's got more on that tornado warning. Caroline, we said we're going to see more of these. I would not be shocked if this is just one of many over the next 5 to 6 hours.
I fully expect this to be one of many. We do have a tornado watch in place. That's through 10 a.m. this morning. And one thing about tropical tornadoes, we see them often. There's a lot of inherent rotation in these outer rain bands, and that's why this tornado warning was issued. We saw that rotation. So a big difference between these type of tornadoes and what we see during other times of the year. They happen very fast. We already have the rotation in the atmosphere. They'll touch down, and just as quick as they do, they'll lift back up. The good news is that means they don't typically stay on the ground as much. The bad news is that means you're not going to have as much warning before these tornadoes reach your location. This is why it's imperative to know exactly where you would go if a tornado warning is issued for your location, because even this tornado warning, when it was issued, the National Weather Service said that this is moving to the west at 50 miles per hour. You can't outrun this in a car, not with Houston traffic. If we switch this over to velocity, you'll be able to see the rotation. A little bit trickier to see, but bear with me here. The rotation that we've been watching, the closest, likely right here. That's going to be just to the north of Gubbles Road. Akron right there. You can see AP George Road just to the south and to the east. This is likely where we're seeing that rotation. So if you're in this area, you do need to be seeking shelter. It's going to be moving its way towards Ricefield Road and Booth Line Road. That's going to be the intersection. Now, this is pretty sloppy looking on the radar, that is for sure. But this is what we're looking at right now. Sheer, this is showing winds moving in different directions in relation to our radar. This is showing that's most likely happening right here, Ricefield Road, Akron, AP George Road. This is where we do have that rotation currently ongoing. So another thing to factor in with all of this, of course, we're on air showing you that tornado warning. That's going to be the heavy rainfall because we are watching the rain really start to stack up. I'm going to show you 3-hour rainfall to show you how heavy the rain has been, but then also 24-hour to show you areas by the coast. Take a look. We do still have those flood advisories and this flood warning in place, but right now rainfall accumulations, it's been really impressive. Sweeney down towards Freeport, we're talking 4.5 to 5 inches of rain, and this event is just getting started. Let's continue to look further towards the north. Areas underneath that tornado warning, Sienna, Needville, Rosenberg, this system moving its way towards you. We certainly are seeing heavy downpours there, 2 inches, 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So certainly heavy rain coming in, but it's unlikely that we're seeing any major flooding problems. So as a reminder, if you are in this tornado warned area, you need to move to the lowest level of your home, interior room, put as many walls between yourself and the outside as possible. You don't want any windows. So for most people, they're in their homes, it's going to be an interior closet. It's going to be a pantry. And hey, if you're listening to this in Southeast Texas, even if you're not underneath that tornado warning, know where you would go because likely we're going to see several of these as the day goes on. So if you think, oh man, my pantry's full, clear it out. Make sure there's enough room in the closet for yourself and your pets because we are likely going to see more of these tornado warnings as the day goes on. Another thing to note, wind speeds here estimating at 76 miles per hour. Now, this is measuring higher up in the cloud, but still this is suggesting that we have very intense winds in this area. So you want to be staying away from all windows. The big concern there is that anything can become a projectile. While we're talking about anything becoming a projectile and tree damage, this is your reminder. Keep your devices charged. Plug in your phone, plug in the iPad. If you do lose power, you're going to want to have a way to get weather information. And if you're watching us on TV right now, you can watch us on your tablet or your phone. Click2Houston.com/watch live. That's a really easy way to get information. If your TV's not working, you just got to have your phone charged. So that's why I recommend you charge it. If we animate this to show you just how quickly this is moving, radar really looking like a mess. But you can see even up towards Sugar Land, now seeing heavy tropical downpours. These colors, those red colors, and even this deep purple color that we're watching. This is going to be in the Fresno area down towards Arcola. That's going to indicate blinding rainfall. This is going to quickly cause street flooding. Justin, with any of these, we're seeing rainfall rates well over 2 to 3 inches per hour. And then on top of that, the tornado warning's already starting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked with that as well. And in fact, that's one of the big things we've been talking about. And I just checked that band 2, Caroline, where that tornado warning is right here, about 2 to 2.5 inches per hour. So we're likely going to start seeing some street flooding here across parts of Fort Bend County. Would not be shocked to see that. So let's jump in a little tighter of where we're seeing this, where Caroline was just talking a second ago. Not only that, and again, this is a radar indicated tornado warning. It does not mean that we have anything on the ground at this point, but certainly one of those spots that if this happens to have something that dips down very quickly and then shoots across an area, it could still do some damage. And in fact, our own Bill Spencer had talked to some officials earlier down in Galveston said that there may have been some damage from a possible tornado as well. We're going to try to see after the conditions are better for Bill if he can get down there, and at least we can see it and assess exactly what happened. As I said a second ago, here's what it looks like if you're just waking up with us now as we're approaching the 4 o'clock hour. This is our Empower Pharmacy camera from right here at the KPRC 2 studios. Not a lot of traffic out there in the Southwest Freeway, and that is certainly good news. So let's jump in a little tighter on some of these areas and just get you a better sense of what we're seeing. So of course we've got that aerial flood advisory. Notice that's for parts of Brazoria County in towards parts of Galveston County. That goes until 6:15. Of course, we have our tornado warning. That's for areas around Thompson's over towards Siena as well. That goes until 4 o'clock. And then the most, or I should say the spot we've been watching with the greatest concern in terms of flood potential has a flash flood warning until 4:45. And that includes Lake Jackson, Freeport, Oyster Creek out towards Bay City as well. All right, so let me back this up. So let's head over now. It looks like Erica said we've got a live picture out towards Sugarland. Okay, so let's pop that up right now. Okay, so this is a Greatland and Greatwood, excuse me, thank you. This is the Greatwood area right outside towards Sugarland there. And that'll give you a good indication of just how conditions are going to start falling apart very quickly. What's really interesting to note about this is if you remember yesterday afternoon, we were getting some of the outer bands of Beryl that were moving on in. It looked like this. We were getting wind-driven rain that was sliding across the area, and this is what we're going to see over the next 4 to 5 hours out across not only Sugarland, but into Katy, Rosenberg, Needville, if you're watching us down that way. Conditions are probably going to start falling apart in the next 1 to 2 minutes there. So you saw that was our photojournalist that's out working in that area. So, okay, let's jump in a couple of spots a little tighter on some of these areas in particular. There was Sugarland, as you saw a second ago. And so as we mentioned, that the winds are starting to pick up with some intensity. I'd expect winds that were anywhere from around 20, 25 miles an hour will probably start picking up closer to 30 to 40 within the next 1 to 2 hours. The storm is going to be making landfall within the next 30 minutes down at the coast, which is what we're seeing right now. We'll go down to the coast here in just a bit. But if you go anywhere from Bel Air, there's Highway 90 down towards the Beltway as it slides across. There's Brookside Village. There's Pearland, Hobby over towards Macawa. As you get towards South Houston, here's the other thing too. I've had some folks that have asked me questions to say, are there going to be flight delays today? I would not be shocked if there are cancellations all day today. If you're trying to get in or out of town, probably not going to happen today. Tomorrow, better. Maybe later on this evening, we'll see what the conditions are like. But I cannot stress enough. If you're watching us across much of the metro area, this is just beginning. We're going to be in the thick of this for the next 4 to 5 hours. And in fact, let me turn this back on just to get you a sense of the, we'll call it moderate rainfall that we're seeing out across the inner loop right now. And you go just south of there from 288 on down to the Beltway. And I'll widen this out just to get a better sense of what we're seeing. This first heavy band is starting to press northward. And as it does, it's going to bring the rainfall rates from this are anywhere from around 2 to almost 3 inches per hour. About 2 inches per hour is enough to do street flooding, you know, side streets, feeder roads. If you've got an area in your neighborhood that you know that just doesn't drain very well or it fills up very quickly when you get big thunderstorms, expect those to go under very quickly. Once we get closer to 3 to 4 inches per hour, which is not out of the question what this storm could do, that's when we're talking about some concerns across some of the bigger roads, you know, state routes, this FMs, or even some of the interstates. Now, most of the main interstates, if you're new to town, there's a reason why they're all elevated and they have those little holes as you're driving along because the water fills up, drains down to the feeders. That's one of the reasons why those feeders fill up as quickly as they do, and those are the ones you really need to watch out for. Best just to not go out anywhere if you don't need to at this point. Looks like we've got a secondary one. Yes. Okay, well, I'll get you information on that. Let's see what we've got. So that's a new tornado warning right in behind that. That's until 4:15. So we've got 4 o'clock and 4:15, and I'd expect to see this too because this is what we're starting to get some of these bands that are coming through. So let me jump in a little tighter on that just to get a sense of what we're seeing, and it's right about that same area. Okay, I'm going to slide over to the velocity here real quick, Caroline, just so I can get a sense of what I'm seeing, if there's anything. I'm not picking up on anything there so far, but same story as we've said a second ago is that all of this that we're getting is likely just, you know, at least some rotation within the clouds itself. So let me put this in motion over the last hour here just to get a sense if there's anything that I can pick up on. Yeah, it looks...
So near Iowa Colony.
Yeah, I got it right there. Okay, so basically Iowa Colony towards Manville, 288. So we're talking about between Highway 6 and 288. If there is something that's trying to swirl or trying to dip down to the surface here, this is what we're looking at. And again, we're not picking up on any major signatures, which would basically be all of this red, which is outbound winds going away from the radar site, which is over in League City and Dickinson, by the way. And then you have sort of a green inbound wind. You saw that right near Thompson just a second ago at the very end of this. So my guess is that these are, these are radar indicated, meaning that there's at least some rotation enough that the National Weather Service says, hey, we're going to slap a tornado warning on that. Let me put this, stop this in motion here, and let's put the radar back on just so you get a sense of what it looks like. So there we go. Okay, so again, we've got tornado warnings, and I have this little button right here turned on. You see these arrows? These are called skits, and they're basically sort of severe markers is probably the best way to describe them. Anything that may be in the storm that could turn severe, hail, some kind of rotation. We'll see if we're picking up on any of that. In fact, let's turn the base rotation on right now, and I'm just not seeing anything that we've got. Storm relative velocity, I'm not picking up on any of that as well, so we'll turn those back on just to get a better chance if we're seeing anything. We're not at this point, but that said, there's still probably an indication that we could be looking at some rotation anywhere from Iowa Colony over towards Manville. So there's 288, there's Highway 6, and then of course you've got the first tornado warning from Thompson's. That's sliding over towards Fairchild. There's Needville over to Pleak as well. All of these areas, this heavy rain, as we said just a second ago, is picking up anywhere from 2 to almost 3 inches per hour. So the whole area is under aerial flood advisory until 6:15, and we widen this out just to get a sense. So starting to see some conditions going downhill. What's interesting about this too is that you notice just how compact the storm is. And as we said a second ago, we've got our own Gage Golding down here in Matagorda Bay. When we talked to Gage about an hour ago now, I want to say, or probably about 45 minutes ago when we first came on the air, he had said he started to believe that the wind was going down. Their anemometer, handheld one that he has, which is a measure of the wind speed, was clocking closer to 90 miles an hour and then had dropped down to about 25. My guess is that his conditions are vastly improved from the rest of our crews that are all along the coastline here, including Bill Spencer, Mario Diaz, Rochelle Turner, and then of course Owen Conflenti, who's over towards the Galveston Convention Center, and Galveston Island as well, one of the spots that's under that aerial flood advisory because these bands just continue to roar on shore. Now, interestingly enough, if you go just west of the storm, look at this over towards Colorado County out to Victoria. Absolutely nothing. So this will give you a good indication of just the compact nature of Beryl as it's coming on shore, and all of this is going to roar northward. I think I saw a second ago the last shot I had seen from center point was over 55,000 outages. And Caroline, you mentioned a second ago too that both Wharton County and parts of Matagorda County were about 40% power outages with this storm starting to come on shore. So all of what we're seeing out here, just to kind of put a bow on things, is exactly what we were expecting over the last 2 to 3 hours as this storm got closer and closer. And so what we'll start to see as we transition now from 4 o'clock as we're coming up at the top of the hour, going into about 6 to 8 o'clock, inland areas, so that includes all of Houston Metro, your conditions are going to start going downhill very quickly. If you're just waking up with us now and you're thinking, oh, it's light rain out there, I'm not seeing a whole lot, just wait, give it 2 to 3 hours. Things are going to start to go downhill. The good news is that over the next 1 to 2 hours, especially on the south end here from, let's say, Port O'Connor to Port Lavaca, down towards Matagorda or Aransas County, then northward up to the Bay, we'll start to see some improvement. But back end of the storm right here still has to come through. So that means Port Lavaca sliding inland as you get towards Palacios. And then, of course, all of the barrier island there towards the bay. This all still has to get the backside of this storm coming through. So expect the winds to pick up. I'd expect the storm surge to start to slide a little further to the north. And that'll start to put areas just south of there towards, let's say, Rockport in a much better condition over the next 1 to 2 hours. But we've still got some very heavy rain. And these rain bands, Caroline, are really starting to pick up speed. So I would say that some of our rainfall totals that you've shown so far that are close to what, 2 to 3, almost 4 inches at the coast, I would easily say we could double those numbers when it's all said and done here in the next 5 hours.
I think getting 8 inches of rain is certainly possible. That's going to be a concern. A quick update from the Hurricane Center. We now officially have landfall that happened around Matagorda, Texas. We were anticipating this. We've been watching as that eye has been pushing its way on shore. They're now saying officially Beryl has made landfall in Matagorda, but remember, landfall is not the end. Landfall is really the beginning here in southeast Texas. We still have to deal with storm surge, heavy downpours, and of course, that ever-present risk of tropical tornadoes. Tropical tornadoes, they spin up quick and they're on the ground for a short amount of time, but you need to take them just as serious as you would any other tornado warning. So this is a look at that tornado warning we're watching right now. This is for Fort Bend County and Brazoria County in place through 4:15 a.m., so about another 13 minutes. If you're within this warning, you need to be in your safe place right now. Interior room, away from any windows. Don't chance it. Go to that interior lowest level. Bring your kids, bring your pets, and just wait until this warning has expired. You can bring us with you on your phone. Click2Houston.com/watch live. We're still waiting on that new advisory, so we will be checking up on that map periodically because we are expecting a brand new cone at 4. But let me tell you, even with that new cone, it's already moving its way on shore. We're not going to see a lot of change. We've been watching as this makes its way to the north. That's going to be continuing to make its way up towards the north. Justin.
Yeah, they let that first tornado warning expire at 4 o'clock. So that's an indicator that you and I have been talking about a second ago, that these are radar indicated and we're not necessarily seeing anything on the ground yet.
Yes.
Can't confirm that there hasn't been any damage. If we get any information on that, we'll let you know. But expect to see these fire up, and then when they expire, they will likely let them go. This is just mainly a precautionary measure at this point.
Absolutely. And you want to take all of these extremely serious as they're going to be popping up. In fact, right now, let's take a look at our reflectivity, see if we can see any other potential spin ups here. So this is what we're looking at. This is our storm winds. So winds relative to our radar. Our radar here in southeast Texas, that's located right in League City. So the red, that's winds going away from the radar. Greens are winds going towards the radar. So when we see them close together, that's going to indicate rotation, spin, tropical tornado. That's going to be the big threat that we're monitoring. Thankfully, not seeing a tight rotation here, but the Weather Service did see enough as it was pushing its way through. So we're going to keep seeing these. We do have a tornado watch in place through 10 a.m. this morning. I expect this to be reissued as we go into the afternoon as well. But storm by storm, right now we're tracking this tornado warning in place, currently going to be in place through 4:15. So if we take a broad look at what we're currently watching, areas north of I-10, you really haven't seen a lot. You saw those outer rain bands yesterday around 1 o'clock, and now we've got more rain moving its way in. This will continue to push its way to the north. That's the good news. This system is continuing to move. In fact, right now our winds still moving it to the north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. We are anticipating our latest update with a new cone. That should be coming. It said 4 a.m. It's possible our system just moving a bit slow. But what you can expect, because Beryl's made landfall in Matagorda, that interaction with land, it's really going to start to decrease in strength. Think of the Gulf of Mexico like the food for this hurricane. It's had an unlimited buffet as it's moved across the Gulf. Now that it's on land, we've cut off this food supply, and we expect Beryl to start decreasing in strength. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to see a lot of rain. In fact, right now, rainfall totals, this is in the last 24 hours. Bay City now nearly 6 inches of rain, and this is just the beginning. Bay City about 20 miles north of the coast there. So almost 6 inches, 8 inches. That's going to be easy because additional rainfall between now and Tuesday, we're talking even for the Houston area, over 7 inches of rain. Keep in mind, we haven't seen a lot of rain so far. Here in Houston, only ½ an inch. So this is why we're urging you, stay home, stay off the roads. You don't want to be going into work today because conditions only going to get worse, especially as this system works its way to the north. The strongest winds, that's going to be around the eye wall. So this is where we can expect to see most of our power outages. I do briefly want to show you those power outages because we have been tracking this. Take a look at what we're looking at. Matagorda County currently seeing that deteriorate. Wharton County 40% without power. Matagorda County, we're now saying over 70% of Matagorda County is without power. You can see 15%. These numbers, they're going to keep changing. 83%. So a lot of locations are losing power. This is why we're urging you, keep your devices charged. If you lose power, you can still watch us online. Click to Houston.com/watch live. Justin, we're expecting to see a lot more power outages as we go through the next 8 hours.
Yeah, wouldn't be shocked. I mean, you saw a second ago the tornado, or excuse me, the tropical storm warnings go all the way inland into Harris County. And that basically is just a power outage map at this point, right? So I just want to give a quick update on that. I know we've got that active tornado warning till 4:15, but those are generally radar indicated at this point, and they're very preliminary just to kind of make sure there isn't anything that will try to touch down. If I get any information on that, we'll certainly jump back on the radar. But I want to get back out to some of the reporters as well, because we've got new folks. We're just after, 4:07 here, and people are starting to wake up and see what's happening. So I want to make sure that they know what's going out there as well. Quick note that it officially has made landfall at East Matagorda Bay. That is the first July landfall since Hurricane Hannah back in 2020 for the state of Texas here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very surprising. And that is where Gage has been, like all night, all morning long. Is that where we're going to check in right now?
I think so. But we do not have Gage. Okay.
Changed it. We're going to go to Mario first.
Okay. All right. Let's see what Mario. Yeah.
And you were at the west end, Mario. It does not look like you would have moved, but I'm not sure what we're seeing right now.
Okay.
He can't talk right now.
Okay, so we just have his live
picture, and just that rain is tremendous. I mean, it almost looks like some sort of camera or GoPro is underwater, and it's going over the camera.
Well, remember, you saw a second. Oh, can you hear us, Mario?
Just in case. Is this the road closure they're coming up on?
Yeah, I think they're coming up on a road closure here.
They're not going to be able to go past, maybe.
No, they may have to back up. Just while they're getting oriented here to figure out where they are.
Let's go, follow.
So the weather station in Galveston over at Scholes Field is reporting wind gusts of 71 miles an hour. So just under Category 1 hurricane force winds. That's at the airport there in Galveston, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about how this side of the storm, the dirty side, is more like a whipping side.
Oh, yeah. Think of like a...
just stay right on top of them.
If you've ever... Okay, so it looks like they're following some first responders there as well. Yeah, so we'll stay with this shot here for a second. Well, yeah, that's a great point, Sophia. So what you're seeing, if you divide the storm into 4, right, which is what we always talk about, the dirty side is the right side of the storm, right? So if it comes on shore at Matagorda Bay, which it did, then that puts, areas west end of the island, Surfside, Jamaica Beach, right where Mario is driving right now, where he and his photojournalists are. And then, of course, the north right quadrant, which is now starting to become Brazoria County, parts of Matagorda County, southern Fort Bend County. And as you might expect, that's where we start to see some of those severe weather threats, which we talked about when we first came on the air at 2:30. I said, wouldn't be shocked to start to see those up into that sort of right front quadrant. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Now, the problem with that is, as the storm moves inland and starts to sneak up the, 59 and then eventually 99 at the Grand Parkway, which is where I think the center is going to go, that puts most of Houston Metro on that dirty side. So I would not be shocked to see power outages start to increase. We already said, where were we at, Amy, at about
now Centerpoint is 80,000
right so I mean, this number is going to go over 100,000 by before the top of the hour.
And that 80,000 for Centerpoint doesn't include what you guys were talking about in Matagorda and Wharton. And so, do we think these kinds of winds are going to be in Houston Metro, or will they die down?
I think it will back off a bit. But still, I would not be shocked to see winds across the metro area of 60 to 70 miles an hour. Now, let's put this into perspective. The derecho, when it came through, had maxed out winds of 90 to 110. And you saw the structural damage that it did, right? Which is why it wasn't just, power outages of transformers going down with that. It was the big, the big landlines, the ones that go all the way across the landscape. Yeah, those got mangled as that derecho came through. So I don't necessarily know that we'll see that kind of infrastructure damage, but I could see these types of wind gusts could knock out power for many folks as well. Okay, it sounds like trees, tree limbs. You got it. Mario, can you hear us?
There he is.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. How you doing? I don't know if you can see me here right now. I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, no, I was going to say we can hear you. Give us an idea of your location right now. We've been kind of tracking your shot for about 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, we just got back from the seawall. We're just on the west side of the seawall, and we're finally getting into that area. This is what it looks like in front of us, and honestly, this is really good compared to what we were dealing. Oh, there it goes. You see, this is like a whiteout.
Wow.
Fortunately, we have a sheriff's office pickup truck that's in front of us, and he's been helping basically shepherd us now for the past 25 minutes. So kudos to the Galveston County Sheriff's Office, 2 of them, for helping us light our way here. But let me tell you something. So about 45 minutes ago, you remember that live shot, we broke down because we had all of these transformers going off. Mm-hmm. We jumped into the vehicle and we started working our way back east towards the seawall. Yeah. And all of a sudden, there were 4 electrical lines down in the middle of the street. I mean, just 4 of them ripped apart. So that tells you there was an extreme amount of wind gusts that came in through that vicinity, much more than what you would expect at 75 miles per hour, because those electrical lines, they were significant, they were big, and they came down, and they were in the road. Sheriff's officer had a spotlight on it. We caught the spotlight. We obviously worked our way around, zigzagging him. And then we went all the way on the left side, and then we've been following him ever since. Yeah. But it was right before you get to the seawall here for about 4 minutes where you could not see anything on the road. And we were literally moving at about 5 miles per hour, stopping and waiting for the water to go through. It was like literally a fire hose. Several fire hoses were going against our windshield. That's what we were dealing with. And then now that we're at the seawall, we have this opening, and we're starting to see things more clearly. Yeah. But a lot of transformers, I counted at least 7 that exploded on the way here. So that's in addition to what we saw right outside of the live shot location we were at. And our plan now is to go towards the Hotel Galvez and go live from that location moving forward. But, you know, we've talked about this. We're driving in it because we're obviously having to move locations, and we're reporting on this. No reason to be out here. None whatsoever. And kudos to the Galveston County Sheriff's Office for helping lead our way right now back to where we want to go.
Now, Mario, have you seen anybody out on the roads? I know you and the officer in front of you are out, but have you seen anybody else, any other vehicles?
No, Sophia, and I'll be honest with you, this officer here doesn't know who we are. He just saw our truck, and he flashed us. He has no idea. He didn't get close enough to realize who is that, what are they. He's just trying to lead us to where we can get more cover. When we first got to the island tonight, or excuse me, I should say last night, pardon me, because it is Good Morning on Monday, there were, I would say, no more than 10 vehicles that we saw making our way from the Galvez all the way to the west end. At one point, there were 4 together, and it stood out for us. Roger, we're going to have to keep on going, bud. I'm sorry, I got to tell Roger. We're going to keep on going down, Roger, down this road. You're good. And thank you, Roger. What happened was, we saw 4 cars coming together, and I thought they were actually police officers, like doing some sort of patrol. They weren't. They were just 4 people. But I have seen probably less than 10 cars, and right now, there's one to our left here at the light, and it looks like a SUV that would be similar to what law enforcement would have, but we'll see here. But as you can see, and that's our camera right now. We're moving a little bit, and we've been moving the whole time since we've been here.
Yeah, and so you don't really...
This is what the drive's been like.
Yeah, you don't really know where this officer is leading you. Someplace where you can get under some sort of shelter, but we're not really sure.
No, I think he was just helping us. I think he was just helping us navigate the areas where there were trouble.
Yeah, just get out of the west end of the island there.
We're big.
Yeah.
Yeah, get out the west end of the island. Right. And he was just helping us get through there. And from here, it's pretty much open up. Trust me, this is good right now. This is very manageable. What we were dealing with earlier was, I've never seen anything like it, ever. That's what it was like. And it was whipping up on the truck with the wind because there was no protection. There was no seawall. The moment you got to the seawall, they cut down a little bit. Yeah. But it's been, and here we go again, right in here. Yeah. It's been this way from start to finish. Go ahead, Amy.
Well, I was just going to say what we're hearing right now, since you guys are all sort of spread out there. Rochelle, who's in Surfside, was saying that they're in the truck right now because their truck is shaking and moving. It's not safe for them to get out. and do, you know, a shot for us. Obviously, we're keeping all of our crews safe and everybody's paying attention to all of that. But yeah, what you're seeing there, and then obviously they're getting hit pretty hard right now in Surfside as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the coast right now, right? It's anything that's in that hurricane warning that was designated. And this is that northeast quadrant, that dirty side, as it's like to be called, that's making its impact. And we're still several hours away from this being complete for us. Fortunately, it's a very fast-moving system, and that's going to get out of here quick. But even at 6 hours, it's going to do damage. Again, power lines are down on the west end of Galveston Island. I haven't seen that since Laura a few years back in Louisiana, and I remember navigating the back roads, and there was nothing but power lines that we could not get through. And that creates a challenge tomorrow morning once the system moves through and the sun's out and people are trying to get out of it.
Okay. All right. We're gonna,
Amy?
We're about to cut away from you, but just where are you along the seawall? I was trying to see that street that you just passed.
Right now, I'm right in front of the San Luis Hotel.
Oh, okay. All right, so you're close to where Owen was.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say he's over where Owen is. Okay. All right,
and
Mario.
Oh, there goes another transformer.
Yeah. Stay safe, my friend, and you guys make sure that you get somewhere where it is. I was just noticing here too, before we head over to Robert Arnold and Lake Jackson, is that we're starting to see power outages in southern Fort Bend County start to pile up now as well, right? And that's going to be the case as this storm moves inland. The center has already made landfall. Just saw a tweet from Gage a second ago, who's down in Matagorda Bay, and their conditions are starting to fall apart as we expected it would, as they're on the backside of that eye wall now at this point. And so probably if you're in Matagorda, if you're watching, this is what, 418, next 30 minutes is probably going to be pretty rough again, and then they'll see the conditions start to vastly improve by sunrise, which is great. But that also means by sunrise, we're now talking about Fort Bend County, Katy, Sealy, Waller County. All of Harris County is going to start falling apart here in the next 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah, we're looking at like 84,000 people right now without power at Center Point.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Jumping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like I said, it'll probably be over 100,000 by 5 o'clock once they get a chance to see where their little gauges and stuff are going off as well. So I think we've got, is that right, Frank? We've got Robert Arnold over in Lake Jackson. We've not talked to Robert yet. Robert, if you can hear us, conditions have been going downhill for everybody that's along the coast. Give us the latest on what's happening with you down in Lake Jackson.
We've been at Lake Jackson for about the past hour, and for that entire time, this entire area has been buffeted by these really high winds that are just not letting up. They're only getting more intense as Beryl moves further inland. We're already starting to see a lot of debris come down. We've seen a lot of tree branches come down like this. We're starting to see street ponding in several areas. None of the roads that we've seen have been impassable yet, but we've come here to the law enforcement complex. We're at the police department. Across the street is the fire department, and the only reason we have lights on in this area are because of the generators. It's hard to hear, but I can hear the hum from these large generators that are keeping the lights on to these two buildings. And probably over the last 45 minutes, I've counted at least 5 of those blue-green flashes, meaning transformers are blowing everywhere. And as soon as you get beyond these buildings, it's pitch black. So power is out. I can't say if it's for the entire area. We haven't had a chance to check that, but certainly in the surrounding area, we don't see any power on except for the 2 buildings which are on backup. Of course, the police department and the fire department, and there's a helipad over there as well. We're also starting to hear some other debris. I heard some metal shaking off of the water tower across the street over there. Not exactly sure if that's siding, what that is. It's hard to see from the wind and the rain across the street, but I can hear that telltale sign of what sounded like metal siding hitting metal, flapping in the wind as these winds are continuing to get stronger and stronger through here. But conditions, thankfully, have not caused any severe damage that we have seen yet. We also have not seen anybody out on the road except for emergency vehicles. So a lot of people are heeding those warnings. They already issued a mandatory evacuation for the town of Quintana, which is there on the water. That was done long ago, and we have not heard of any rescues at this point, but we're going to keep checking in this area in Lake Jackson as soon as we can get back out on the road.
Robert, I have a question for you. Is he on the edge of the eye at this point?
Yeah, he's in one of those stronger.
Can you guys still hear us?
Yeah, we could hear you, Robert.
And Justin was just talking about sort of where you are in relation to the storm.
I can't hear anything.
That's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, we got you. We got you, bud. You're good. Okay. Yeah, to answer your question, Sophia, so he is on one of the outer edges. Guys, if you can take links too, and I'll show everybody here while they try to gather their shot here, is that, as we said, the storm, there you go, thank you. Storm itself is come on short. You saw that tornado warning expire too, as I expected it would. So this, again, these are just preliminary, but any of those bands are starting to get stronger as they're moving from Lake Jackson over toward west end of the island where we saw Mario a second ago. So he's still in the thick of it, so to speak. And then you see the eye now almost completely over top of Matagorda Bay, but the backside of that, from Palacios over towards Port Lavaca, down to the island itself, and the barrier island right there in Matagorda Bay, right? So just north of Aransas Pass, that's going to slide northward. All of that's going to start to shift. In fact, I just got this from Caroline Brown a few minutes ago. The new 4 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, it's now moving north at 12 miles an hour, so it's picked up a little bit of speed. Pressure has actually dropped a few millibars, which I expected it would. It's going to tighten up just a bit here, and the wind's still at 80 miles an hour, so we're still dealing with a Category 1 hurricane.
Now, my question for you really quickly.
Yeah.
See how the outer bands are moving, northwise. Is the eye of the hurricane, this, around the eye of the hurricane, those bands stronger than the bands that are whipping around on the dirty side? In terms of the wind, yes. In terms of the rainfall, probably not. My guess is right now is that the heaviest rain, wherever you see some of those red colors there from, Pearland on up to Houston, that's where an indicator where we could pick up anywhere from 2 to 3 inches in less than an hour. So that's enough to do some street flooding, right? Like I said, the feeders will flood at that point. I've been getting a few reports of some high water spots. I've got one at Beltway 8. That's at the westbound lane south over Alameda and FM 521. So only one we've got so far, which is good, but I expect to see more of those come, especially as some of these bands get closer to, downtown, moving into some of the more metro areas. Now, what's interesting is that some of that wind, even though we may not see the wind gusts clocking higher than what we've seen so far from some of our reports, and again, the highest estimate I've seen from one of the gauges was off of the Brazos River there in Matagorda County that was at 91 miles an hour in terms of a wind gust, right? That's enough to do plenty of damage. But you saw a second ago with Mario, with Owen, that there are power flashes going on in Galveston, and I'm getting reports as well from folks that are down on the island right now that said big chunks of the island are out of power, which I expect because of that eye, Sophia, to answer your question, as that lifts north. So if it stays on that northerly track, if that goes right across, let's say, southern Fort Bend County, Needville area, Thompson's, Rosenberg, Sugarland, right up through Katy, Brookshire, Fulshire, right across, Cinco Ranch out there near 99 and FM 1093. I would expect to see more significant power outages there as well. Because some of these spots as well were put together after the derecho. They just got, the crews out there, at least in the East End in my neighborhood, they kind of patchworked it together thinking, oh, we'll have time to do this real repair when we need to. Now we may be running into some of those issues too.
Right, yeah, I mean, and so just so you know, if you're watching this and you're in any of those areas that he just mentioned in Cinco Ranch, I mean, we do have crews in Katy. We've got people spread out everywhere. Right now, we're just showing you where the conditions are the worst,
right? But
we have people in place in your neighborhood to cover the whole greater Houston area. Right now, we want to check back in with Rochelle Turner. She is in Surfside Beach and sort of has been monitoring the conditions there. The last time we checked in with her, the wind was very, very strong. We could hear it. What's going on now, Rochelle?
Hey, Amy. The wind is still very, very crazy. It is intensified possibly by 10. I want to show you some video. We're at the Buc-ee's in Surfside that we just got maybe about 10 minutes ago. Take a look at this video of this massive sign. Okay, we don't have the video just yet, but I'll show you guys what fell right here in front of us. You see this giant sign? It is massive, and we heard a loud bang, and I was actually taking a video on my phone, and I actually caught a little bit of it, but one of our editors in the booth, his name is Eddie, he was actually rolling on this when it fell. It just shows you just how strong these wind speeds are. Right now, the wind speed on my phone says that it is 45 miles per hour, but the wind gust is 75 miles per hour. Now, since we actually moved off of the island, Amy, because it was just that dangerous, we started to see the storm surge get higher and higher. The area became pitch black, so we made You guys may have saw that little flash. That was one of the transformers. The power has been flickering on and off. So my producer just came into my ear and told me that we have that video. Watch this massive sign fall right here. Watch this video, guys. It just happened so fast. We were all just sitting here, people in the parking lot, when it just fell over. And I can't see the video myself, but we saw, yeah, okay, so it just fell. So it was so scary. And let me show you guys this black car that is sitting next to us. It's so windy out here. Hold on, I'm going to show you. This black SUV was actually parked on the other side when that sign fell, and they quickly drove over here to us when it happened. It was so scary, but it just shows you just how strong the wind is here in this parking lot. We've been seeing heavy rain, strong winds in the Buc-ee's parking lot. As I pan over, I kind of want to show you guys some other stuff that we've been seeing also. So the gas station had these plastic wraps around the gas pumps, and further down, the plastic actually came off. It's so bad out here that the truck is starting to shake and rumble at times. And so we're really just kind of staying safe right now at this location until it kind of passes over. But the wind is very, 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 very bad. It's starting to pick up, and the rain, I got out just to try to use the restroom, and it feels like there's little pellets hitting your face. So this is what we're seeing in the Surfside area, and the power is flickering on and off. So it's pretty dangerous out here.
Okay. Well, Rochelle, you guys stay safe.
Turn it back to you guys.
Yeah, hunker down there as best you can at this point. We're going to get over to Caroline Brown here in just a second because we're going to kind of pivot. But I just saw something in her shot that I thought was rather interesting there as well. Did you see that all of the gas handles?
Yes, she said they wrapped them in plastic.
Yeah, exactly right. Very smart thing to do.
So the water doesn't get into the pump?
The water doesn't get in, and it happens to take a hose and rip it off, and then now you've got gas and a spark, and you got all kinds of stuff, right? Just problems at that point. Speaking of, let's get over to Caroline Brown because she's going to talk about that band, that first band that's now starting to smash its way across the South Loop, Caroline. And you said a second ago, we've been seeing rainfall rates with that close to 2, almost 3 inches per hour, and that's probably going to cause some problems here across much of the metro.
I mean, absolutely. We've seen heavy rainfall totals, Bay City over 6 inches, but now the strongest of the rainfall, not the winds, the rain, actually pushing into the Houston metro area. So if we take a closer look, you can see these deep red colors now north of Pearland from Hobby over towards Meadows Place, pushing its way right now into the South Loop there. So Bel Air, West U, very soon you're going to be seeing heavy torrential downpours. I'm going to put this in motion, and you can see it's been pushing its way to the north. So as it does, this is going to make everywhere inside of the loop a mess. This is blinding rainfall. This is going to make travel nearly impossible. Stay off the roads if you can, because this is producing certainly very quick. We can expect to see street flooding with this as it makes its way towards the north. Rainfall rates, we're talking about 3 inches per hour. Certainly you're going to have that blinding rainfall for at least a consistent hour here. So we're talking widespread, just 3 inches from this band alone. And currently it's pushing its way just to the north of Sugar Land. So if you are in Sugar Land, you had this band move through. We saw those live shots in Sugar Land. Now that's pushing to the north. Now you're going to be left in Sugar Land with a more consistent lulling rainfall. Elsewhere, we're continuing to watch more rain bands push their way on shore. Lake Jackson, thankfully, right now seeing just a lull for the heaviest of it, but more is going to be working its way in. I also wanted to show you the brand new cone put out by the Hurricane Center. This was updated at 4 a.m. and the updates are really positive, at least as positive as they can be at this moment. Take a look. The brand new cone has it staying a Category 1. One thing you'll notice here, our previous cone did have Houston Metro in the entire loop inside of the cone. This is showing where the center of the circulation can be. So passing over I-10 and Katy, likely around 8 a.m. still as a Category 1 hurricane, advancing up towards Brenham in the Woodlands. That's going to be 11 a.m. in the morning. Look at this. By 3 o'clock, already already pushing its way towards Madisonville as a tropical storm. By 8 p.m. this evening, now it's up near Tyler and Nacogdoches, and then continuing by 4 a.m., already pushing out of here to Texarkana. So Justin, right now, this is going to be really the worst of it now in the next 8 to 10 hours.
Okay, thanks very much, Caroline. I appreciate that. Yeah, and you know, this is kind of what we were talking about at this point, is that we've got, you know, the storm has already made landfall officially, right? It just about 30 minutes ago at this point. But we're still seeing some of the worst conditions along the coast, which is why we've been hitting a lot of our reporters. We've got Bryce Newberry's out, I believe, in either Katy or Sugar Land. Rowan Belogan's out that way as well. TJ Parker's out that way. So when we start to pivot over the next 2 hours here and go into some of our inland areas, some of the conditions that you see at the coast now that are getting hit are going to start to back off. Conditions across some of the metro area, some of the suburb counties here in particular, are going to start to go downhill over the next 2 to 3 hours.
Still early for that, but I just saw your screen popped again. More than 100,000 customers now without power, and that number continues to climb.
Right. Yeah.
I see no reason why it won't. You know, and these are the bands that are just starting to get some of the more populated areas. So I would expect that number to probably double by the time we get towards sunrise, 7 a.m. at this point.
Yeah, and speaking some of those sort of suburban areas just outside of the Metro Houston area, we have someone with the Office of Emergency Management in Fort Bend ready to speak with us. Good morning, Greg Babst. Thank you so much. I know you guys are probably monitoring conditions there. Tell us what you're seeing right now.